Where are the jewels? We know that 5 more people were arrested in the Louvre art heist, but we still don't know where the jewels are. $100 million in jewels still missing, and I literally have the perfect guest for this podcast, a former FBI agent who actually started the FBI's jewelry and art recovery unit. He knows all about these investigations. I'm going to ask him all about it coming up in this episode. Also, there was another art heist in the United States this month that no one is talking about, which I found to be very, very interesting. I'm going to get into that too in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates. Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really, really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. The questions of where the jewels are now from the Louvre heist, I'm going to get to that in just a second. I've got a really amazing guest with just a fascinating theory about that. And it's not what I've heard over and over again, that they were melted down. And this guy is legit. He led the team for the FBI that investigated these kinds of cases. So I'm going to get to him in a minute. But first, I want to get to the latest on the case because there's been some developments. There were more people who were arrested, including one man tied with DNA, according to prosecutors in Paris. So there was DNA that actually tied him back to the case. They say 3 of the 4 members of what they are now calling the commando team, those are the words that they're using to describe this. The commando team are now behind bars, and prosecutors say that they are hoping that the men who burst into the Apollo Gallery and are now in custody will actually be able to give investigators information about how they pulled this off and that they will start cooperating. And again, you're going to hear from my guest. He thinks that that is going to happen. But the big question, of course, is where are the $102 million in jewels? You've got a diamond and emerald necklace Napoleon gave to Empress Marie Louise as a wedding gift. That was his second wife, I believe. Jewels tied to 19th century Queens Marie Amélie and Hortense. And then Empress Eugenie, a pearl and a diamond tiara there. And experts have warned that the gold could have been melted down and the stones could be recut to erase their past, which again is exactly what I'm going to ask the former FBI agent who created the unit that investigates these crimes. And he doesn't necessarily think that's what happened here. So you'll want to hear his take. We're learning a little more about the planning that went into the heist. 9 days before the raid, thieves allegedly stole a truck, mounted a lift, after answering a fake moving ad on a French classified site. We've all seen that truck with that lift. 9:30 a.m. they show up. They move the lift up to the Apollo Gallery window. 9:34 a.m. the glass gave way. And then 9:38 a.m., 9:38, the crew was gone. So it literally was all done in just 4 minutes. Only the near simultaneous, that's the way the prosecutor described it, near simultaneous arrival of police and museum security stopped the thieves from torching the lift and preserved really just crucial traces of evidence. Because according to prosecutors, they wanted to torch the lift and get rid of all of the evidence. That didn't happen. And the prosecutor says that's how they were able to link a lot of this stuff back to these guys who they've already arrested. There's security footage. It shows at least 4 men forcing a window, cutting into 2 display cases with power tools, and then fleeing on 2 scooters into Paris. They left on scooters. Investigators say there is no sign of insider help for now, though they are not ruling out a wider network. Also, my guest has something interesting to say about that. So I'm going to get to everything with the Louvre. But then there's also this really strange burglary of artifacts that no one's talking about that I wanted to quickly mention because I think it's really weird. It's not getting a lot of attention. And I just heard about it today and was looking at photos. The Oakland, California Museum had nearly 1,000 items stolen. Native American baskets. There was jewelry, historic artifacts, and the FBI is now also investigating there. And the burglary happened actually at a museum storage facility, we're told. This was back on October 15th at 3:30 in the morning. The CEO there said, the theft that occurred represents a brazen act that robs the public of our state's cultural heritage, and said most of these objects have been given to the museum by generous donors. We are working in close partnership with the City of Oakland, the Oakland Police Department, and the FBI to see that these objects are returned. So obviously not as big a deal as the Louvre, but interesting that's not getting a lot of coverage, and that just happened in California. I'm joined now by Robert Wittman. He is a former FBI agent who actually created the FBI Art and Jewels Recovery Unit. And I really appreciate you talking with me, Robert. You're literally the perfect person to talk to about all of this. Um, what would you be doing right now if this was your investigation? I mean, we know that they just arrested five more people. What would you be doing? What do you think we'll see happen next?
You mean like right now in France?
Yes, yes, sir.
I'd be sleeping because it's 2 a.m.
True. Good point. Yeah.
But
But
I mean,
when you woke up, what would you be doing?
I would be going back and reviewing all the forensic evidence. I'd do that for the first hour, and then I'd go be talking to the five individuals that they brought in yesterday for not interrogation, but for interviews. I'd also be talking to the original two guys they brought in last week who have already partly confessed to knowing about the situation. In fact, one of them was brought in based off the DNA he had left at the scene. So that would be my next move today. I'd also be talking to my teams who are out there at this point and doing search warrants on the homes of those five individuals that were arrested yesterday, and also checking the cell phone towers around their houses, doing what we call trigger fish, which is to be looking at the phone numbers that are going in and out from those cell phone towers to match up with the ones on the cell phones that these individuals had. So there'd be a standard, amount of investigation that we'd be doing that you would do in any forensic case.
So this episode is sponsored by Opus Clip. You guys know I'm working so hard on the podcast. I'm traveling every week for News Nation. It's really, really hard to find the time to make shorter clips of my episodes. The shorter clips for platforms like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, Instagram, all those social media sites. I've been using a platform called Opus Clip. It is an all-in-one AI editor. It makes it easier and faster to cut, create, and upload videos across all social media platforms. It is so easy. Through the power of AI, Opus Clip, it automatically generates B-roll, it cleans up audio, and it reframes your videos for any platform. It saves you so much time. I've been using it, again, for all of my videos on TikTok, for my YouTube Shorts, for Instagram, and it's so easy to start using. All you have to do is go to opus.pro/Brian, sign up, and then upload a video. In just a few minutes, you'll have tons of perfectly edited clips ready to go. It literally just takes a couple of minutes and it has all the clips there for you. Whether you're making videos for TikTok, Shorts, or Instagram Reels, Opus Clip is your one-stop shop for getting your best content seen by more viewers across all of these platforms with literally just the press of just one button. And if you're wondering how good the AI videos are from Opus Clip, just check out my YouTube Shorts or check out my TikTok. I've been using Opus Clip to edit all the videos lately. Having a tool like Opus Clip means I can get you even more videos fast at Brian Enton Investigates. We know that our listeners have a lot of opinions and ideas to share, and this is the most powerful tool there is to help you edit like a pro and grow your own audience. So give it a try for yourself. Go to opus.pro/Brian to start creating your own videos today. Are you surprised that it sounds like at least some of these guys are talking?
No, um, no, it's been my experience. I've done these investigations for 35 years, and throughout that time, recovered more than $300 million worth of this kind of stolen property and art. And it's been my experience that when you get a group of individuals that are involved in a crime, and you start picking them off one by one, they start to look out for their own benefit. And you always have to keep in mind that you got to keep the main thing, and that is to recover the jewelry or the art, whatever the situation is. So in this case, I'm not surprised that they're starting to cooperate because they've been brought in. They know that they're caught, and at that point, it's every man for himself.
Where do you think the jewels are now?
Well, there's two theories at this point. One theory is that they took them out and they popped all the gems and diamonds out of their holdings, and they took the precious metals and they, melted it all down, and that's one theory. My theory is that they haven't done that yet, and the reason that is because I think that it does them a lot more good to have it in one piece in the event that they get caught. They know they left a lot of evidence. They know they dropped one of their motorcycle helmets that had DNA in it. So obviously they know that the French police are going to be able to follow up and catch them. So as a result, the main thing you would want to do is keep it in good shape, the material, so that when the time comes, you can make a deal.
Basically say, I'll tell you where it is if you cut me this deal and I don't have to go to prison or something like that.
Or if I don't have to go to prison for as long.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So is this just like sitting in one of these guys' apartment? I mean, where do you think if they didn't melt it down, like, did they just hide it somewhere?
That would be the thought. I mean, I did a case in Madrid where they stole 18 paintings and about $65 million worth. And over the course of a year, they had hidden them in different apartments all through the city. A couple of them were hidden in like garages. Other ones were hidden behind a refrigerator. So it could be in all different places. It doesn't all have to be in the same spot. It could be divided up into different areas. These people's houses. But I think that the point is that they probably have maintained it at this point as a get out of jail free card.
Because they knew that they left the helmet behind, you think?
Ultimately, yeah. Also, because there's no buyer. There's nobody's going to buy the crown jewels of France. I mean, the value on these things are the heritage and the culture. The 102 million that they say they're valued at would be if you could sell them legitimately, at auction with transference of good title. And you can't. There's no good title to them. They're stolen. So that's the first thing. Secondly, it's the cultural heritage that makes them valuable. The actual jewels and diamonds and metal themselves, probably $1 million worth, maybe if that much, if you could get that. The refining processes for gold in 1810 weren't quite as good as today. That stuff's not 24 karat. It's going to be a low carat number. It's going to be a lot of base metals in it. And that's because you have to have that in order to wear jewelry. That's what jewelry is made of. That's why it's 10, 12, 14 karat, maybe 18 if it's really high quality, never 24. So that's what people are looking for.
Is there ever, and just, not just with this case, but sort of in this world of thefts that you know so much about, is there ever like a really rich person who just wants something like this and then hires a gang like this to carry it out?
Now, like I said, in 35 years of investigations, I have seen people who do shoplifting types of thefts, and usually they're collectors that want to take that material and keep it for themselves. And it's small material; it's things that are, hundreds of dollars. When it comes to $1 million, $10 million items, I've never seen that. And that's a theory that came out many, many years ago. And we all in law enforcement, we call that the Dr. No theory. Because in 1962, in the movie Dr. No, which of course was the first James Bond movie, Sean Connery goes into Dr. No's lairs, and on the side he sees a painting, and it was the Duke of Wellington by Goya. And he sees it on an easel, and he looks at it like, I wondered where that went, and kept going. Well, that painting was stolen the year before from the National Gallery in London. And that's real life. It really was stolen. So what had happened was one of the producers on the movie had read the article and thought that would be a cool idea, tongue in cheek, to put the painting in. So it's a reproduction they put on an easel. And so ever since then, people have thought, hey, there's a Dr. No down there in a cavern, staring at his stolen paintings. That doesn't happen. I've never seen it, like I said, in 35 years. Here's the end of the story, though. At the end of the movie, somebody stole the reproduction.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
what do you think their motivation was then? I mean, certainly they thought to pull off something like this, they must have put some thought into what they were going to do.
Oh, it was well thought out. I think that there's two parts to this theft. The first part is the planning and the idea behind it. How do we do this? The bringing in the basket truck, the bringing in the basket that goes up and down with the ladder. The motorcycles to make their getaway, the angle cutters to cut their cases, the surveillance that was put into all of it to make sure that they could get in and do what they needed to do. And then on top of that, using in the yellow high vis vests, like construction workers, and then coming in at 9:30 in the morning, like it's a normal day and there's construction going on, and like nobody would suspect that these guys were thieves. They would think they were just, construction workers. Well thought out deal. I think that they did a good job with that. The second part is execution. Terrible, sloppy, just just bad. Okay, I mean that's why they left so much forensic evidence. If you want to get away with a crime, you have to do three things. You have to do it by yourself. Just do it by yourself. Never tell anybody about it and leave no evidence. In this case, it was at least four people. Now we're finding out there's more like 7 to 10. Right? They've talked about it, I'm sure, on cell phones back and forth, and they left a lot of forensic evidence. So they did all the things you shouldn't do if you're going to get away with a crime. So in this case, I think that was really sloppy the way they pulled it off.
What do you think, though, that their plan was, or that their plan still is to do with the jewels and with the, I mean, because you said you don't think they were going to immediately melt them down. Do you think they were eventually going to melt them down?
I think they were going to think about it. I think what happens is these thieves, and what I've seen, in my experience, they're better thieves than they are businessmen. And they don't realize that the real art in an art heist, it isn't the stealing, it's the selling. What are you going to do with it once you have it? They think that usually they're involved in many different types of crimes, and they're not involved in heritage theft. So I know that two of these guys were known to the BRB, the Brigade Against Banditry in Paris, as being jewel thieves. Well, that means that they had gone into jewelry stores and robbed jewelry stores. All right. So yeah, you can go into a Harry Winston's or a Tiffany's and get away with stealing jewelry and go out and sell it, and you can melt it down. But you can't do that, and that's material is going to be pretty high quality. All right, the diamonds are going to be high quality, the gold's going to be high quality, it's well refined, versus 250-year-old jewelry that's not in that situation. And I don't think they'd been involved in a heritage theft before. So there's a couple of things there that are different. I don't think that they realize, the investigation that would come down upon them. The whole world's looking at this, and the entire country is against them. So they've become villains throughout the whole country of France. In fact, the whole world. So that's a little different situation than hitting a jewelry store. Two different things. So I don't think they thought it out. I really don't. I think that they thought that they could get this stuff. That's what they're concentrating on, getting it, not what they're going to do with it.
Do you think that there may be someone on the inside who helped them?
There's some speculation. I know at the FBI we did a research back in the early 2000s, and we found out that 89% of museum thefts in the United States have some insider component. Not necessarily is it someone like a curator or a director, not like that. It could be anybody. It could be somebody who works there who went out to lunch and misspoke, and people heard what he was saying about security. It could be anything like that. It didn't have to be an actual employee, but there's some insider component to it. In this case, I think they're looking into that pretty heavily. We'll find out. Maybe there was someone on the inside who gave them some idea. But the when they broke the window, the alarms went off, and so as a result, five guards did respond. So if it was an inside job, they didn't give them much help, you know. And the five guards, well, they couldn't do anything because these guys they threatened them with the arc cutters, the angle cutters. Yeah, they're circular blades. So they really couldn't stop the theft.
I guess when you look at the Louvre, you just assume it's almost like to me, it's almost like the White House. When I look at the White House, I just assume that there's every possible security measure and that the walls are bulletproof and the windows are bulletproof. And even though the Louvre looks old, you just assume like, oh, there must really be some secret stuff there. And I think we're all just kind of surprised that they just went right through the window and, you know?
Well, you got 8 miles of galleries, all right, and the building itself is 500 years old or more, and it wasn't built as a museum; it was built as a palace. So, at that time, the security was basically guards, guys that are wearing uniforms, and just basic guards with swords, you know. So I don't look at the Louvre as being a fortress. I think that their security systems are probably adequate for what they have and what they do. But any security system can be overcome if the burglars are willing to do anything. In other words, if they're willing to get caught, take a chance. If they can make as much noise as they want, or they can make as much of a spectacle as they want, you can get in. I mean, there's no security system that will stop you.
I'm just thinking back to what you said about your theory that they may be holding, these jewels somewhere as sort of like a way to say, we'll tell you where they are if you cut us a deal. Has that happened in your career before?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen that happen. Things being offered back for leniency. In fact, I had a case involving thieves, French thieves in Marseille, in the south of France, and also in Paris. And I was working as a undercover, acting as a dealer, a shady dealer in Miami. And these guys had paintings that they would offer for sale. They told me at one point they had 30 stolen paintings from different thefts. And they said, you could buy anything you want. And I asked them, I said, why are you keeping these? Why do you have 30 paintings? And first of all, they couldn't sell them. There's no place to go with them. And secondly, they said they basically keep them in case they get caught doing something else. Because these guys are not just museum thieves or art thieves. They do, armed robbery. They do car theft. They do drug running, gun running. They're involved in all different types of crime. And we call these art thefts gateway crimes into gangs that are involved in many things. They just happen to do an art theft as well.
It
So as a
it
result, they
sounds
keep it.
it sounds so much more sophisticated though. Like art theft. You know what I mean? You almost think of like someone who's more sophisticated, not like someone who's doing car robberies.
Now the ones that are sophisticated are the guys who are doing forgeries, selling the fakes, that type of thing, because it's a little bit more. It takes a little more class, a little more not intelligence, but talent in the way of being a businessman. Guys who are thieves. Criminals who go in and do robbery are basically common criminals. So it's not so sophisticated when you go in with an angle cutter, a circular blade, break a window. It's not. It's just not. It's not like forging a Rembrandt and selling it through Sotheby's.
What was it like when you would go undercover in this world?
What was it like? It was, it was like working any case that you do. I never liked going undercover. I did a lot of undercover work. And the reason for that was because you had to prove knowledge, that the person had knowledge that the piece was stolen or whatever they were doing was illegal. That's the first thing. And secondly, I would do it because that was the only way to recover the art, because, if you do an overt investigation, sometimes the art will be destroyed or will get hidden in a place where you can't find it. So working undercover would be an easier way to be able to recover the art. So it was like it was something that I was able to do because I understood the art world, had some background in it. My parents were in the antiques business, so I knew how to do a deal, and that's what it comes down to, making a deal.
So you would go undercover pretending to be someone who wanted to buy stolen art that had been stolen. Is that right?
Well, I would go undercover, and I would act in many different kinds of venues. In other words, I did a case in Madrid I was telling you about where I was an authenticator. I was an expert, professional who authenticated art. So in this case, I was buying for somebody else, but I had to authenticate the art to make sure it was real. So they had to bring it to me. So I was like a professor in that one. I did another one in Copenhagen for a $35 million Rembrandt. And in that case, I was acting as a buyer for the Russian mob. So I was making the actual deal, showing the show money, which was 250,000 and $100 bills, which I had with me, and we that would be the show money. So it was all different roles, depending on what the situation was.
That really is like a movie.
Anybody wants to make a movie?
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking, so would the FBI give you $250 million in bills?
Well, it was 250,000. Wasn't
250,
a
I'm
million.
sorry, I meant
Yeah,
250,000. Would they give you that? That would have been, yeah, 250, that would have been a lot of bills, but the FBI would just like give you a briefcase or how would that work?
it was a duffel bag.
Duffel
Yeah,
bag.
yeah. And the one in, like I said, the one in Madrid, we had €1 million, and that was another duffel bag. That was just big duffel bags of money. So that's just the cash.
And would you give them the money or was it just to kind of show that you had it?
We would, what I would do is show it to them, and it would depend on the situation. Um, I wouldn't give them all the money, but I might give them some of it just to take a look at it. The one in Madrid, the bad guys went. They were a gang, and they were in the top 10 group of thieves in Spain. And it was interesting because they went through the duffel bag and they took out a 50, a 20, and a €10 note just to make sure it's real. And when they checked it, the guy looked at it, said it's good. He puts it in his wallet, and they left. And but the police who were guarding that money, the Spanish National Police, were very upset because that's 80 euros they lost out of the million, you know. So that police officer had to pay that back, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, but what it was funny when we they brought the paintings back, a Bruegel painting worth about 4 million. They bring it to me and they do the takedown. The Spanish police come in with the SWAT team. And the first thing that police officer was go in the guy's wallet and take the 80 euros out to give back to, pay himself back after he had to put the money in. The money was coming out of the Spanish National Bank in Madrid.
You mentioned the gangs, just going back with the power structure in these gangs, are they ever worried? Like, is the leader ever worried that one of the underlings is going to just take the jewels and sell them on their own? Or how does that sort of work?
I don't think they worry about the theft of the jewels or the theft of the art. I think they probably do worry about getting caught and having someone snitch on them, and flip. And that's basically what's happening here. The reason they got the first two guys because of DNA, but the next five, I'm sure, is because these guys were partially, as they say, cooperating, and so they started coming up with names.
Hmm. Did anyone ever figure you out when you were undercover?
No one ever figured me out per se at that moment, but there were a couple of cases where after the case went down, the criminals were able to they found out that I was not who I said I was. In one case, my cover was blown by the French police, in fact, but
Oh,
by then it was too late.
I mean, the Louvre story is obviously, like you said, it's getting headlines. The whole world knows about it. How common is this though? Like, is this happening all the time and we just don't know about it with smaller, like art, jewelry cases, but not smaller, but it's still big, but not as big as the Louvre?
There's cases all the time of artwork being stolen, of smaller material being stolen. I mean, just recently, I think it was last week, there was a museum in Oakland, California, where the storage unit was hit, and they were saying there's more than 1,000 items that are missing from the storage unit. And we also have problems with curators, people on the inside stealing. The British Museum was hit last year, and a lot of pieces were taken, and they sold them on eBay, and so they were caught as well. So this happens, where people get caught. They're not the smartest tools and the sharpest tools in the shed when you steal something and sell it on eBay.
Yeah, no. And you mentioned the Oakland, California. I was reading about that, a lot of Native American artifacts. I was just wondering, like, what someone would be doing with those.
You know, most of that material was not very valuable. It's not like these Louvre pieces. So I would tell you that it's not very valuable. It's going to be hard to sell. It's all been codified. It's all, there's a history on every piece in the museum. They've got photographs, I'm sure, of all of it. So ultimately, these guys are going to find out these people that it's going to just lead right back to them.
How long do you think it'll be until if we see these Louvre pieces show up again?
Well, they've got seven people at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if four or five more people don't get taken in for questioning as well. 10 to 12 people is what I would figure would be involved. And, it's just a matter of time before they decide that they'd rather negotiate their way out of prison than spend, many, many years in.
When we first heard about the Louvre case, I think most people thought it was going to be like almost like from a movie, like a Pierce Brosnan type, not a gang. How common is that? Were you surprised?
No, because the movies are the movies. That's Hollywood, So Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones, they were in entrapment, and she danced between the laser beams and all that, and that kind of helped. And Cary Grant was the Catch a Thief was a jewel thief as well. So that's what we think of. We think of these, handsome, beautiful, debonair, intelligent people who go in and do a theft themselves. But that's not the case. I mean, when we talk about people in museums who go in and do like shoplifting, like curators or experts, that's one thing. But when we have a hardcore robbery, and that's what this was, it's a gang. It's a gang of thieves. It's a group of criminals. It's not, you're Pierce Brosnan or Steve McQueen or Sean Connery, doing a single job. No, it's a gang, and it's a group of thieves that go in, and they're criminals. They're professional criminals.